Joseph died, and all his brethren and all that generation, even after their deaths, the people of Israel were still fruitful, and they increased in abundance. They multiplied in number, and they waxed exceeding mighty. It implies that while Joseph was around, a system was instituted that supported the fruitfulness, the increase in abundance, the multiplication, and increase in might for the people of Israel. So he set up a system that even after his death, they continued in that trajectory until something happened. There was a kind of disruption of a system. The system that Joseph set up was somehow disrupted. According to the scripture, the Bible recorded that there arose a new king over Egypt. A new king arose, which knew not Joseph. It implied that the system that Joseph set up, as at this time this man came to power, was no longer seen. So I want to believe that there were no hands to continue the system that was set up. Succession plan is very, very important. You cannot time yourself successful until you find somebody that will extend what you have begun. And that is why I will always mention that no man ever succeeds alone. It takes the collection of people in order to succeed. This person began something, his generation were doing well, but when they left, the people that they passed the baton to somehow failed in their leadership. They failed. They were not able to train others that will be able to communicate the same skills, to the generations that are coming. And because they failed in this, it happened that another leader arose and couldn't see leadership that could match him. In this life, two systems are at war. If you pay good attention, you will see that actually there was never a time that the Egyptian lacked a pharaoh. So it's not because a pharaoh arose that made the children of Israel to begin to face the hardship that they faced. But rather, what I believe was responsible was because there was no responsible leadership to match the other leader in terms of strategy. So we began to talk about being strategic in our thinking. I remember we mentioned that strategy will always eat operation for lunch. If we are not strategic and then we are just busy running up and down, the people that are strategic will always outwit us. So it's a call for us to become strategic. Now, how did the people that were on top, how did they come under? There is this conversation that these guys were doing very well. These guys were fruitful. These guys were growing in abundance, that is in wealth. These guys were multiplying in number. These guys were increasing in might. But what happened? That this king arose and did a very good analysis as to what was happening to them. The people on top eventually came under bondage. I would say that it is a reflection of our people and most of us in Africa, a reflection of people in our country, Nigeria, and most of the African states. The people being on top, eventually coming under. From what we read, they increased in abundance, they were fruitful, they multiplied, and were very great. But how come they came under? There were days that the naira was spent on the street of London. In terms of economic strength, Nigeria was stronger than most of the countries we talk about today. So I say it's a reflection of what has happened to our nation and most African states. What has happened? That these guys that were on top, they are now the ones under. As we speak now, he's battling between 1,400 and 1,200, something that had stronger power against the dollar before. So it's a reflection of what has happened to our people and most African states. And all of this happened simply because of transition of leadership. The demise of both previous leaders opened them up to a world, a new world of partnership and strategic alliance. There has always been a leader that represented the Egyptian. There has always been a leader that represented the children of Israel. But Pharaoh died. Another Pharaoh arose. Joseph died. And then there must be somebody that was leading the children of Israel. So the demise of the previous leaders opened them up to a new world of competition. And the most strategic came on top. The less strategic came under. The summary is that the more strategic anybody is, the more in command that person will be. It's unfortunate, many a times people live their life thinking that it's a free world, that you can do whatever you like without consequence. In developing countries and underdeveloped countries, they feel that they can do anything they like and then there will be no consequence, including the indigenous. Believe that they can do anything they like and then no consequence. No, we have to be strategic in all we do. Now, what is strategic thinking? It is the generation and application of business insights on continual basis to achieve competitive advantage. Generation of business idea, business insights on continual basis, which is something that should be ongoing every now and again. Strategic thinking is not something you do once in a month. It's not something you do once in a year. It's not something you do once in 6 months. It's something you do on continual basis. So this other king was always doing observation, strategizing, thinking, generating ideas on continual basis in order to give his people comparative advantage. But unfortunately, the other group, they were just living their life like a normal life. Nothing is happening. We on top. Whatever happens, we are there. So it is exactly what is happening to us. While others are engaged in strategic thinking on daily basis, we are not engaged in strategic thinking. We are just busy running up and down, busy doing whatever we think we can do. So for us to be strategic, we need to go under. Each time we want to solve a problem, we just look at the problem on the surface and they use our ignorance against us. People don't go under. To be strategic in our thinking, we need to go beneath the surface. When you look at what really happened, this young man took time, observe the people of Israel. One of the things he did was he branded them enemies of their states. That was one of the things he did. You know, hatred can unite people. Most of the politicians use it. If election is coming now, they will brand a set of people that these people are your enemies. And because of that fear, these people are your enemies. If nothing is done, this is where we are going to be. They are just using these two just for their own selfish interest. So these people are your enemies, and then this is how we can protect ourselves. Because of that fear, the people are united. That's one of the strategies that Pharaoh used. If war will break out, these people will unite with their enemies and then we take them out. Let us deal wisely with them. So for us to also handle our circumstances very well, there is need for us to brand our enemies. We need to know who our enemies are. Who are the enemies of these states? Who are the enemies of our economy? Who are the enemies of the future of this nation? If we are able to apply that, just as they are doing, they are using divide and conquer rule. You know, this person is your enemy, this one is your enemy, and then we are busy fighting ourselves. And then they are busy lording over us. So we need to know who our enemies are. Why are we where we are? Let's go beyond the surface. Let's go beyond political line. Let's go beyond religious line. Let's go beyond ethnic line. If for us to be strategic, we shouldn't just be looking at the surface. We are all brothers. We are in the same country. What is happening today in our nation is hitting everybody except some people. So we need to go beyond the surface. It's not about religion. I don't think there is anybody today that buys a loaf of bread cheaper than the other person in the name of religion. And even if you get that thing for free, philanthropic minds are people that are making those things available. So we need to become strategic. Go beyond the surface. Go and read history. How did we come to where we are? That was what Pharaoh did. So they branded the people, become acquainted with what happened when you were not there in your absence. To become strategic is to become aware of the resources available to you and to understand how to effectively allocate them. When you look at what happened, these people took time and then analyzed what they had. These guys that are wax-skin strong, they might be skillful in building, they might be intelligent in doing this, but the land belongs to us. We own the land. And if they don't have a place to implement their skills, they will renegotiate with us. They became aware of what they have. Why the other party were not aware of what they have? Currently today, I don't think we are aware of what we have as a nation, as an individual. When you are not aware of the resources that is available to you, you will become a slave. So they became aware. And another thing I observe is this. These other people were very, very comfortable to stay in Egypt in any condition, which means they were meant to believe that they cannot do without the land of Egypt. Of course, when policies began to change, they should have bolted out and then let's exit, let's leave the place. But they remained, maybe thinking that there's no other place we can go. There's no other thing we can do. If not, let us keep managing. And they kept managing. And the more they tried to manage, the more they were in slavery. Let us manage. Let us continue to manage. And that is what is happening to many people today. The guys that act as thugs, whether political thugs or whatever, have been made to believe that they cannot do any other thing except that job that they are doing. And the day an individual will become less dependent on another person, that is the day the person has found his freedom. The day you become confident in yourself that you can exist without another person, that is the day of your freedom. But if we keep living our life over-dependent on people, puts us in slavery. Over-dependence on people. If you are too dependent on your father, if you are too dependent on your uncle, too dependent on your boss or whosoever, you don't believe in your ability, you don't believe in what you can do for yourself, you will end up a slave. Look at our country. We depend so much in the Western world. We have all the natural resources that you can think about, but yet we depend on the Western world. Even when you bring commodities that are of the same value and quality before somebody in this country now, they prefer to buy made in the Western places. Over-dependence on people will put you in slavery. So let's begin to recognize the resources that is available to us and then how to use them. We all have equal amount of time. Everybody has equal amount of time. We don't know how to use our time. We don't know how to use the people that are around us, and even the little fund that is given to us, we don't know how to manage them. Intelligent distribution of the resources we have is one of the ways to be strategic. If you don't know how to distribute what you have adequately, you will not be strategic. We have over 200 million people in our country, and yet we can't produce our food. We have arable lands, yet we cannot produce our food. It's a shame. What am I saying in essence? We need to become strategic. What do we do with the land we have? Wherever you are, begin to think about the resources that are within your reach. The 24 hours a day you have, you may say you don't have any job that you're doing. What are you doing with the time you have? The people that are around you, how are you maximizing? The little fund that comes to our hand, what do we do with them? Intelligent distribution of these resources that gets to us is one of the key ways to be strategic. Now, outside the positive side that worked for the Egyptians, now there was something also I observed that worked against them. And most of us in this part of the world, we also fall prey to that. What was it? If you do a very good analysis, how did these people, I mean the Israelites, how did they eventually gain their freedom? With all the strategies that these people had, how did they eventually gain their freedom? If you observe very well, all their attention was paid on male. All their strategies were on male. How to stop the men, how to stop the boys. That was the strategy of Egyptians. They never took the women serious. How did Moses emerge? It it was women. In this country, we don't pay attention to some homes. If they have female daughters, they may not want to send them to school. They may not want them to dream big. But the salvation that Israel had started with in the hand of women. So I want to just advise some of our parents, because all you have are female daughters, you don't take them serious. Before Moses came forth, there were midwives that had the audacity to flout the order of a king. If you come to our political land space, how many women are in our political land space? If time is not taken, they might be the best, that the people that can even help us out of this issue, but we don't give women a chance. We don't give them a chance. I'm advocating, let's become strategic. Let's give them a chance. Let's support them in all the places we find ourselves. If it's in the office, let's give them a chance. Let's give them a chance. In our local places, let's give them a chance. The salvation we are looking for may start from their hand. You know, in a few months' time now, a few years' time now, election period will come up again. You know, we are so biased because he's a lady, she's a lady. Nobody will want to support everything, men. But the race, the Israel race, their salvation was pioneered by women. In fact, it took 3 women to save Moses. After the midwives have done what they did, it took 3 women to save Moses. Let us become strategic. Become aware of what we have, the resources we have, and learn how to use them. If we begin to do this, I think Nigeria will begin to retrace their step back in the right direction. We have all it takes to succeed. And for you as an individual, let's take stock of the resources we have. What do you have? Many a times we pay more attention to what we don't have against what we have. And that is a big distraction. Let's think of what we have. Take stock of what we have. And ask yourself this question: how well have I utilized these resources that I have? Before you talk about what you have. If we begin to do this, I think we are becoming more strategic in our thinking. And I can tell you for free, the sky is just our beginning point. God bless you.